Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The November meeting of the Economic Development Authority for the City of Lynchburg is now called to order. We will do a roll call. Mark Strohsnyder is here. John Stone.
Here.
Pat Mosby.
Here.
Richard Tugman.
Here.
George Ann Sneed.
Here.
Tim Sorensen.
Here.
Thank you. I hope everyone's had a chance to read the October 2021 meeting minutes. Does anyone see any additions, corrections, anything that needs to be addressed before we vote on the adoption of those meetings, of those minutes?
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. First item on the agenda, or next item on the agenda, is the Bedford Regional Water Authority easement. Ted, do you want to?
This has been going on some time. The Bedford Regional Water Authority wants to increase the size of the sanitary sewer. 7,500 linear feet of the sewer is in the city of Lynchburg in our industrial park. The other 11,000 linear feet are over in Bedford County. We had talked to them about granting the easement, provided they might consider waiving tap-on fees. But after talking to the city, the Lynchburg water people, what happens is when a business comes in, they meet with the city to see what size, how much capacity they need. And at that time is when their structure of the payment is made. So we can't just willy-nilly have a tap fee that is waived. We can't do that. The other thing we talked about was allowing a walking trail over the easement, and the consultant has said that's no problem. It's a bit of a problem for the city because of Parks and Recreation have to approve it, but
that's on us, not on them.
That's right. That's something that we would have to do. We have two things that we need to sign. One is because you're going back and forth across Ivy Creek and some of those little tributaries, we need to authorize the Water Authority to line up and approve the crossing back and forth. We have to file an application with DEQ. That was in your Dropbox, the DEQ application. Mm-hmm. And it has to go to the Corps of Engineers and it to the Marine, whatever they are.
Army.
Army. I mean, it's incredible how they have to do it. But we need to authorize the chairman to execute the application of the sewer to go through, over, around, and in the creeks. Margette had Draper Aiden, our consultant, review the line, where the line is going to go, and they confirmed to us that it has no impact on the development of the lots. In fact, it's a positive that the line would be there. So I think what you all need to do is authorize the chairman or vice chairman to execute the easement and the application for the permit to cross the creek.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Craddock or Ms. Upchurch?
I have a general question. I apologize.
No, go ahead. I have a general question.
Just from a liability perspective, do we have any exposure regarding, for example, any environmental damage they may cause by doing this work? Do we have any
That's exactly
protection?
what I was asking.
Yeah, they are required to put the property back like it was. And if they do any, under the easement, if they do any damage, they have to reimburse the authority.
So they're responsible for any consequential damage for the work they perform
They are,
into the future?
they are.
Okay.
And do they carry that in the form of a bond, Ted? Is the company bonded? I mean, if you have a knucklehead that's running a backhoe
Well,
and they tear up something,
You
is
know,
that
it's not really bonded, but they have an insurance policy that
that
covers it.
covers that?
Yeah,
So that was my question too, is
Yeah.
if there's any ecological impact,
Right.
that should not happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's some little tree frog or something that lives there.
That's right.
Is that in consideration, and will they be accountable to recreate the environment as
Yes.
needed for whatever
Yes, they have
rare
to.
species that may be found there?
yeah.
And once this is done, does our water authority monitor that section?
Yes, that section that's
Tim
in the
Mitchell's
city.
group would be,
Right, and any
Once-
application for hooking on to the sewer line would have to go through Tim, and who are the two that, Greg Poff, yeah.
so there will be eyes and ears on it in
Yeah.
the future.
And just a general comment, I know we had hoped to be able to structure something where we got, free hookups in the future and that type of stuff, and clearly that's more complex and won't work out, but I guess at the end of the day, just having that interceptor there is a tremendous benefit to us and to our property for future
Yes,
development.
It certainly raises the value of those lots, the remaining lots in that
right.
section.
Well,
Would
motion,
someone wanna make the motion?
that we, what am I making a motion? That we authorize the chair.
Chair
and the
to
vice
sign the
chairman
application and
The easement and the application to cross
to cross the
Abbey
creek.
Creek.
Yes.
Motion.
That is the motion I make.
Motion has been made by Mr. Stone. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Good. Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you all. The ayes have it. The next item is the staff report. Ms. Upshur and Ms. Benson.
Yeah, we're just breezing right through this today. Y'all probably could have taken a 30-minute parking space.
I did.
You're the best, George, and that's amazing. Well, you just look at it and see, there is a lot going on, and you can see in the staff report, I was just telling John, Mark, and maybe Kim and Ted, that the Draper Aiden is working on the master plan for Wigington Road. We've already had a prospect come through, so they did some conceptual drawings for me for what they thought the footprint could be on the properties that, we kind of ranked the properties based on Wigington Road as it pertains to the properties that are right off Wigington Road will really be related back to whatever that traffic study says. That traffic study about what Wigington Road itself, can handle. So anyway, we ranked the properties, but I'm really, really excited about the fact that I worked with Reed on this, and we have actually submitted 3 of your properties as well as the airport property for CIP. So that's the first time that yes?
Concerning the airport commerce park part of this, does Campbell County participate at all in this, or are we solely on our own?
No,
when it
Campbell
comes-
County was, the property is in Campbell County. It's not in Lynchburg. Lynchburg just owns it. Yes, they are happy to they are more than happy to participate, but the majority of the property that could be considered in terms of the topography and wetlands and all of that kind of thing is the city's property. So we're working with the airport director. This is no money. I mean, it's more of a master plan thing that we're looking at, but access to all of these properties is where the issues lie. And so that has been put in CIP, not in EDA, CIP. So for the first time in my 17 years here, we actually have a real economic development project in CIP, not just one named that by VDOT
Is it
or by
approved, or
city.
it's been-
No, it's just submitted in along with all the
I gotcha.
CIP projects, but the city really focuses CIP on, they have a ranking, and economic development is always there, but the depth of that economic development, or it being something new in lieu of maintenance, or, you know, a traffic issue, which I'm not saying any of those are not important, but for the future, you know, these types of things. So, I mean, Reed jumped right in. I mean, if I hadn't had, you know, had him working right alongside me with all of this, you know, it would have been, it probably would have been difficult. But now it is actually part of what will be considered for CIP in the next budget cycle. Which also just gets it, you know, eyes on it, also gets it in terms of when we look at whatever VDOT is ever changing and what their participation is, their grant programs are. And so for a lot of this, you're really looking to how you can partner with them and leverage what the city can put in as well as what they can put in. Usually the timeframes are really long, and so you have to get in the queue to even be considered. So that was a really, really big deal. I can't say enough about the fact that the city of Lynchburg's finance department conducted an audit of the CARES program through us, and it came through with flying colors. So the whole team, Melissa, Anna, Alicia, they all, you know, worked. I mean, they had no idea what they were doing when we were given this task to go out there and do it, and finance didn't know what the, you know, how the audit would look on the other side of that. So that was an unbelievable feat there to come through, you know, because how finance in the city looks at these things as opposed to how a normal human being might look at them are two very different things. We're working with Brown Edwards and Davidson, Doyle and Hilton on the 2021 audit. And majority of staff attended the VA1 statewide tourism conference on Monday and Tuesday of this week. It was mask up, but in person in Leesburg, Virginia. So the LYH jobs portal was launched to business stakeholders on the 29th and to the greater public on November 1st. So Alicia's done a tremendous amount of work with individually reaching out to all of the businesses to make sure they understood, you know, how to connect and how all that worked before we opened it up to, you know, to job seekers in all of that. So she's updated the Navigrid. If you remember, we created Navigrids not only on the entrepreneur side to show people where they could go to get help, but on this side, when it comes to job seekers or the business community, there's a Navigrid which just shows the organizations that provide assistance. So like one-stop shopping, you can look at this. And she actually connected that back to the Workforce Investment Board, right? Instead of having a lot, which there are all kinds of places where people can land to get help, she's tried to keep it, you know, streamlined from the part of where, you know, federal, state, and local, you know, funding can come from, and where those programs are supported for job seekers, as well as if somebody wanted to post something. Am I missing anything? Really sure you want. Yeah, mandated partners.
Since it went live to the public, have we seen good participation, or?
So we don't have the backend numbers like from the website or anything yet, so I couldn't tell you for sure on that. But I mean, we've had good response, and we've had a lot of people reaching out about it, so.
And I'm sorry, I should know this, but I don't. So you
have to post your job specifically on this? It's not like, I thought you pick
No.
up from other.
Yeah, it pulls from other sites,
Okay.
yeah.
Pulls from
So
Monster
remind me who
and
you
Monster
pull
and
from,
Indeed.
like-
Yeah.
There's
it's-
about 1,000 different websites that it pulls from, and we can spider new ones in too.
Oh, okay.
So that process takes a little while, so some of those are still being added,
Gotcha.
but yeah.
Like LinkedIn, Indeed, but also all the companies.
Yes, they can, yep.
Yeah, so what really makes it cool from a job seeker's perspective is when you go out to all those different websites that are available for employers to post a job, the employee or the person seeking the job has to sign up and create an account with that group, right? Which a lot of times can be daunting to people, to navigate all of that.
Right.
You go to this portal, it pulls from all of those portals, puts it in one place, and the person can look at all of that and search very simply, what jobs are available in this area, and there's no signing up and doing all of that. They can go in there and look at it. So, as with anything else in Lynchburg, it will probably take a while for the actual job seekers around here who, go to many, many different places, for all this to catch on. But we have a communications plan, and Alicia's very carefully working with Anna, figuring out how we make sure that this all stays, top of mind. That this is a place that people can go here. This is a place where we will get data back. And then we'll go back to employers and say, how do we make this more robust? What could we, do differently there? So we're working with the Chimera group, as we've mentioned before, who are, Alicia just picks up the phone and calls them and says, is this possible to do now? And they haven't, they're not at the point where they put you on hold for 3 days and don't answer the, the question. They are very, very customer service focused, and I believe that we are one of very few municipalities who has seized this opportunity, because as soon as I heard that they had it, we started down the road, because there's nothing that politicians or anybody else cares about any more than job creation and how all that works. And so to be able to not have to hire 6 people in order to facilitate any of that, or try to lead somebody to navigate it, but to have a website where we're actually participating with our own businesses to help structure that, I thought was a really great idea.
And Alicia, as a user, you can go in and drill down, set your own parameters when you go in to look at these jobs, or is it still?
You can search by, it's like you can do employer name or keyword or type of job. Or type of occupation, so it is more broad categories, and then it'll pull it up by that. And then we're also putting the navigrids and information about the site in all of the neighborhood centers, all of the mandated partners, public-facing city buildings, so those are gonna be up everywhere too.
So I want to applaud you for that, because I went and tried it out, played with it. It's extremely user-friendly. You don't have to be extremely knowledgeable in how to
That's what
navigate
it
on the
needs to be.
internet
Okay.
even. It's extremely user-friendly. So it's, which provides equity in a sense that
Yes.
really, literally, anybody can use that, You don't have to have a college degree or.
Even Ted and I could use it?
I think you can make it. Try it out.
Wow.
Well, I have from my 17-year-old daughter to as senior citizens try out, because I showed it around, and everybody picked it up really quickly.
Great.
We
So,
got really
great
good
job,
coverage.
kudos.
If you saw it in the news in advance, it was on the front page. And it actually, had gone where the story reflected actually talking to employers within the city that had, had used it. So that was really excellent as well. Also, we had coverage about the brand, which we think is, I think the brand launch and everything going on with that has been incredibly positive. And we continue to learn about ARPA and how that money might flow down and where there might be opportunities. Especially, I think there's money slated through Virginia Tourism as well as the Industrial Revitalization Fund The budget is out there looking at ramping some of those programs up, and which would be really excellent if you had, if there's some projects sitting out there from not infrastructure, but buildings, buildings that need to be revitalized. That would, it would be another excellent opportunity for the city or the EDA, if they were to purchase a building, that program is really, really favorable towards nonprofits and municipalities.
And just to show you this, to give you a scale, particularly for Virginia Tourism has received $50 million. That's distributed to localities. We talked about that a little bit last month, but the Industrial Revitalization Fund typically is funded at $1.5 million per year for the entire state. And the budget for 22 is $24 million. So, an ability, so they have not yet finalized their application process and all the rules, and some things will change regarding match, particularly, which is exciting. It typically has a 1-to-1 match. They may waive that with, especially with larger projects, and I think they'll be able to potentially fund projects up to $5 million. But it also allows them to fund smaller projects, right? Usually they kind of just go for the big guys and do as much as they can and make the money go, to these more transformational projects. But the ability to do, smaller projects that really only need $500,000 or $250,000 or something like that, I think we'll be able to submit more than one, which is exciting.
And I'm just hoping, you all have heard about it before, because the Industrial Revitalization Fund is what we use for the academy. You all went out and provided a match, and we applied to them. So one of the things that's a struggle when it comes to nonprofits, so the way it's structured is that it is a loan if it is a for-profit business that wants to apply for that. It is a grant if it is makes no sense, municipality or a nonprofit. But what they're really looking for there is job creation. So they look at things, so a nonprofit for the most part is not going to be a robust, job creator. If they are, somebody's looking at their books and going, what's going on here, right? So the Industrial Revitalization Fund was used for the brewery and mixed-use project in Bedford.
Beals.
Is that right?
Beals
Yeah,
Brewery.
yeah. It was used for that. So it really is, I'm just hoping when they look at this, that they're looking across the board to see, what is possible. Because what you want to do is take, buildings that are out there that could be used for some, combined use, public good as well as, private, and figure out how to do that. Because the private sector is really not interested in layering another loan, program on top of that. So that's really positive.
The IRF also supports not just redevelopment, but acquisition, which is kind of unheard of. Typically, these programs only support the capital investment going into the redevelopment. So again, to be continued, but at DHCD, we've already had some initial conversations. They're excited. They work with you kind of through a pipeline, and they're happy to know that there are projects that are out there that they can start thinking about kind of queuing up for this.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're on the front end of that.
Yeah, and it's all the more reason why, having either master plans or conceptual drawings or, going through everything and having people collaborate with one another and understand that, it might not be your turn this time, but you have to wait. And how all of that, works. Because if the public sector is going to participate, it has to be something that, across the board is going to produce, a greater good there. So one-offs are things that are, really hard to put into place on some of these. And some of the paperwork and rules and regulations, we went to VA1 so we could hear about the Virginia tourism side of it. And let's just say that they are looking at the rules as they're talking about them.
Ooh.
So
On the fly.
that doesn't always give one a warm
feeling of what's gonna happen on the back end when you have to be audited or you have to, do something with that. So anybody that's ever applied for a grant usually knows that they spend more money trying to do the admin of it than they do being able to actually use the grant, being able to use the grant itself. So, Anna, I'll let you talk about the brand.
Sure. We just are having really good success already. We and I can say actually too on the jobs portal we had a sort of a digital data meeting yesterday, and the jobs page has already jumped to the top 3 pages on our site. So that's good. Just early numbers there. Same with the brand, and our landing pages there are already pushed up to the top 3. So that's going well. It will continue. I think of a brand launch as not so much shock and awe, but as a slow burn that it takes a little while for things to catch on, and we really want to sort of blanket the local community, which we'll be working hard on with billboards and bus backs and those types of things. So you'll be seeing it out more kind of through the winter. We had a really, really great success with Virginia Living, and the timing on that was just perfect because they reached out to us probably this spring, summer with, wanted to do a feature on Lynchburg. They typically feature a locality in each issue. So we are their feature for the November-December issue. So it's a 5-page spread. I think they mentioned by name 40 plus businesses and attractions. So it was sort of it was really great. Lots of great photography. So we hosted the writer and the photographer, and helped them, navigate the city. And then, and we also did a full page ad, adjacent to the article. So it's gotten some great traction. The business community is sharing it, which is fantastic. So that was a real, I just think the timing was perfect for the brand launch as well, to have that feature, in Virginia Living. And then we'll send the visitor guide to print this week. It's a little bit like letting your baby out into the world, but because it's such a big, we do a pretty big print run on that. We'll do 100,000 copies, which, supply chain issues are affecting the print and paper world as well. So we're going to do a short run on the visitor guide to get it out there, and then we'll be following up as soon as we have our paper for copies over the winter too. So we're excited to have that out and keep moving through our print pieces and rebrand there. And then I guess last is that the museum is now open 5 days a week, which was a move that we've been itching to happen over the last couple months. So they are open Thursday through Monday. And that's based on, choosing days is based on, peak hours and when we know visitors are coming. So that's a data-driven decision, as opposed to a Wednesday to Sunday. Monday is typically still a higher visitation day. So we're happy to have them open. And
When is your highest visitation day?
Monday is, the highest visitation is typically Friday, Saturday. But Monday is higher than Wednesday, right? So when we were deciding, when to open, at 5 days, typically Tuesday is the lowest visitation. I don't know if that's consistent across attractions or not.
Riverview's, I know, is closed Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Mondays and
yeah.
Tuesdays.
So Ted made that decision to do Thursday to Monday. So we're happy to have that done.
And
And
it's still being well received, being at the museum.
it is. Visitation is up for both. If they were separate sites, they're up for both. So it's combined.
Good.
So it is working. We are. And interestingly, Margette and I have both worked the front desk over the past couple of weeks. Margette worked a Sunday last weekend. I think it's been a really good experience for us to kind of see that, what's happening and who's walking in the door. I think the good thing for the museum is that the visitor services is driving attendance at the museum. So from at least my experience, people are walking in the door looking for visitor services, and then going and seeing the museum and spending some time in that space, which is what we intended and what we hoped would happen. So
what is the visitor center going to end up being, the old one?
I'll let you answer that.
Right now, it's just under, we obviously had programming, for that. When it was the visitor center, if you want traffic to a visitor center,
you're really having to rethink that and making it a destination. So when we redid the visitor center, when we updated it, we really had that, Anna tried to think about having, and Emmeline tried to think about reprogramming, having pop-up shops in there, having, programming that space to draw people to it. But at the end of the day, from a staffing perspective and all of that, it really doesn't make sense to have a visitor center sitting somewhere and then an attraction that's 2 blocks up the street where you could combine those things there. So the visitor center, oddly enough, has never really been connected to the community market, meaning connected as in, it used to, Anna would always say it had its back turned to it, so she had a window put in to try to make that connection there. So there is, we still have programming for that space should it be, but, Winter has experience with revitalizing things like that. And so right now, all the visitor center and the market are all being looked at, as to how all of that could possibly function, better. And there's a pretty big renovation in CIP over the next 3 years for the market internally. And he's just trying to figure out how to get the biggest bang for your buck out of, what goes on there. So it's still, a work.
TBD.
Yes, to be determined, but
Be
it is
a great
definitely-
location for a Starbucks or a Joe Beans.
Yeah.
It would, yeah, it
That's
would
what
be,
you
and
want?
it could happen on the way.
Just an observation. It is with sarcasm.
Well, if they're outgrowing their offices.
The people in the
Yeah,
market.
well, we definitely don't want a space like the visitor center to be used for people's offices. It's not, it doesn't want to be that, as Anna says. All buildings tell you what they want to be. It's just yeah, so, but, it is being looked at, and we are more than happy to follow the path of coming together, like I just said, everybody's got to do in order to utilize and figure all that out, to make that a more of a destination. So I think that's one of the things I would just share with you all, is that when you look at the lines, and one of the things that we committed to in the pandemic was that marketing the city to residents, to visitors, to talent, and to businesses is what this office, we have that title of being the destination marketing organization, but that was relegated in the past to purely a tourism lens. And we had it reiterated from, international groups as we went to the VA1 Tourism Summit, that whole, all of that is shifting to become what I just described, which is no longer is the visitor over here and the resident over here. Anything that you're doing to improve the quality of place for, to attract a visitor, you are definitely doing for your residents as well. So I think that as in all, cities or towns or whatever, there's a lot of competing noise in trying to get people's attention. And we just, we need to do a better job of convening folks and having, and driving a message that is very inclusive to all the different facets of what the city, has to offer. So we've redone the tourism car with LYH Loves You. And so, like Anna says, that the next 3 years, and having that plan in place when this ARPA money comes or the tourism money comes, will help us to drive, some of those messages out there. So it was really, really interesting to hear the stats on bringing those two worlds together, because I've always said tourism is the most dynamic form of economic development. And when Anna and I worked the front desk at the museum, it's amazing. Number one, how many people live in Lynchburg never darken the door of that museum. Number two, the number of people saying we're thinking of moving here. So you know, it goes, you know, across but so much low-hanging fruit there of people that we can speak to, even in the surrounding counties, to shop, dine, play, stay in the city of Lynchburg.
Anecdotally, the folks that say we're thinking about moving here, why?
Just,
Work,
yeah.
kids in school, all across the
Or
board.
retiring.
Retiring.
You
Big
know,
time
and
retiring.
retiring at a pretty young age, right? Like people just rethinking. I mean, I think the shuffle, or the settling, as it were, if that ever even occurs, from the pandemic, it's all still out there in process. And you almost have to be sitting here thinking about it in all those terms, right? Teleworkers can now be anywhere. This is a lovely place. You know, you've got to look at your housing stock, but, you know, those kinds of things are, you have to, you know, sell your community so that any of that could be a possibility. Okey dokey, that's all.
Thank you, ladies.
Any questions?
Any questions, Anna or Margette? Ted, do we have any items for closed session? Okay. Couple announcements. The Finance Committee will meet immediately following the conclusion of this meeting, and our next meeting will be Thursday morning, December 16, 2021, right back here in the council chambers.
Yeah, well, we're
Right.
getting training today
We
on,
are.
but it'll just be if they've removed the requirements of how many people can be in a room.
Can be in a room. Okay. So to be determined for
Yes.
December?
I'd say it would be in here.
Probably in
Okay.
here.
Okay.
I'll let you know if that's not the case.
Okay, does anyone else have anything they want to bring up for the betterment of the committee? If not, this meeting is officially adjourned. For those on the Finance Committee, if you'll stick around and we'll get that going momentarily.